On Saturday, September the 26th, 1970, I had a breakfast of golden circle tinned pineapple juice and golden brown crumpets with my two sisters, Karen and Lisa. After breakfast, my dad gave me 20 cents to buy the Sydney Morning Herald at our Milk Bar newsagent takeaway post office on the Great Western Highway. The name of our little town was Warramoo, postcode 2775 in the Lower Blue Mountains. I grew up in Warramoo because there was nothing else to do there. I used to tell people I lived in Blackstone or Springwood because no one had ever heard of Warramoo. At 10 a.m. we hopped in our car, a blue 1962 EK Holden, registration number GBX 985. The EK Holden had electric windscreen wipers, which was an improvement on the FB model, which had a vacuum operated system, and if you accelerated too quickly, your windscreen wipers wouldn't work. We dropped my mum and sisters off at Blackstone, at Fleming's, Permewan, Franklin, Jewel supermarket to do some shopping. My dad and I continued on to the council garbage tip in Atunga Road to do some shopping of our own. Scrounging through the tip with Dad was always an exciting father-son adventure for me. Nowadays, it's called scavenging and attracts a $300 fine. We had to be home by 12 o'clock. Lunch was always at 12 o'clock, never earlier, never later. We had to be ready to eat when the 12 o'clock time signal went on ABC radio and the Goon Show began. Dad was also in a bit of a hurry because today was Channel 7's coverage of the VFL Grand Final and he had to be in front of his Philips TV shortly. Back then the AFL was known as the VFL because it was only Victorian football teams involved. To make it even more exciting, Dad's team Carlton was in the match up against Collingwood. Carlton were known as the Blues and Collingwood were known as the Magpies. Cans of KB and rashers of draft beer and packets of Nobby's nuts were marshalled beside Dad's Jason recliner well before kick-off. Mum grabbed a glass of masala and watched the opening 2 minutes before returning to her Hoover. It was an historic MCG match watched by 121,696 fans. At three-quarter time, Carlton were behind by 17 points, but staged a remarkable comeback to win by 10 points, 17-9-111 to 14-7-101. After the VFL Grand Final, my mum and Dad got ready for a progressive dinner at 6 o'clock that night. A progressive dinner was so called because everyone got progressively drunk. The idea was to have 4 courses at 4 different houses. So there would be entrees and alcohol at the Petersons in Terremont Road, then mains and alcohol at the Browns in Rowan Parade, followed by dessert and alcohol at the Ashtons in Arthur Street, and then finally coffee and alcohol at the Edgertons in Florabella Road. As kids, we were fascinated by the names of the various alcohol. Names like Brandavino, Blackberry Nip, Porphyry Pearl, or Penfold's Royal Reserve. We kids stayed at home with a babysitter, normally Mrs. O'Connor, or Dot as she was known. I found out only recently that Dot was short for Dorothy. You don't hear the name Dorothy very often anymore. You don't hear the names Esme, Maisie, Agatha or Doreen either very much now. Dot was a part of Warramoo. She took Sunday school, was part of the Girl Guides, and cooked coconut ice or lamingtons or chocolate jumble for the volunteer bushfire brigade stalls. My mum said that Dorothy was a widow all alive. Dot was good value as a babysitter because she was normally asleep before we were. She'd watch Young Talent Time with Johnny Young at 6:30 and then doze off. My full name is Glenn Raymond Anderson, as it was in 1970.